And our purpose, all of us who are called to it, is a great and glorious revolution of consciousness that is essential in order for humanity to evolve, and to evolve in a way that some would argue will determine whether or not we even survive. Now, some of us are called to the arts, to be part of that revolutionary spirit within the arts. Some are called to business, to be part of that revolutionary spirit in business. Some are called. We see in the middle of our mind a little ball of golden that covers the entire inner vision of our mind. We see for ourselves within this light a beautiful temple. We see a garden that surrounds the temple and a body of water that flows through the garden. We see that the inside of the temple is lit as well by this same beautiful golden light. And here we are, for we have been drawn together by the power and in the presence of God. We devote our time spent together, all of our relationships with each other, to Him. We pray that His most Holy Spirit be upon us and lift us up above and beyond the limitations, the sorrows, and the fears of this world to the love and endless peace that lay beyond. And so it is. Together, we all say, Amen. We are on this earth with a purpose. You know, a lot of times you hear people these days say, what's my purpose? I want to know my purpose. I want to know my purpose. But anytime we are trying to figure out something that's about me, I, my, as opposed to you, yours, ours, then you're not talking about the deepest aspect of who you are. All malignancy of thought, just like malignancy of the body, is when one aspect of the whole goes off and thinks it's just about them. That's what a cancer cell is in the body, and that's what malignant consciousness is. It's a consciousness that says, it's all about me. And so whenever we are identifying ourselves only with the kingdom of the personal self, then we're not talking about what A Course in Miracles would refer to as the self with a capital S. Now, the purpose then of our lives does not have to do with what's your purpose, or what's my purpose, but rather with what is our purpose. And our purpose, all of us who are called to it, is a great and glorious revolution of consciousness that is essential in order for humanity to evolve, and to evolve in a way that some would argue will determine whether or not we even survive. Now, some of us are called to the arts, to be part of that revolutionary spirit within the arts. Some are called to business, to be part of that revolutionary spirit in business. Some are called to the sciences. Some are called to education. Some are called to environmental issues. Some are called to healing in whatever area, to law, to medicine, whatever. But we are all called to the same purpose. So if we want to know what our individual glorification is, we seek to find where our individual effort would help to glorify the whole. Now, how do you find this? Tonight, I want to talk about the value of nothing. The word nothing means no thing. But spiritually, the realm of no thing is the realm out of which all things of value emerge. A Course in Miracles talks about a concept called the holy instant. Now, as you probably are aware, A Course in Miracles, Buddha, Einstein, other metaphysical texts and teachings refer to this world in which we live as a three-dimensional reality, obviously, but just as science tells us that although my hand touching this lectern would assure me that the lectern is solid, scientists assure me it is not. that this lectern is made up mainly of empty space. Now, the world of things, a thing is of the three-dimensional world. So the three-dimensional reality, which is filled with things, is an illusion that is like a veil in front of a truer truth. If I identify with things, the part of me that identifies with those things is a part of me that is an illusion of who I am. So to the extent to which I identify with the reality of things, I cannot find the completion of myself, because I am cutting my reality into all these different pieces called different things. The same mind which leads me to do that when I say, wait a minute, it doesn't feel complete here. I don't feel like the fullness of myself here. The same mind which led me to do it to begin with says, the only problem is you don't have enough things. So then we go on an endless search for more things, and then the more things we get, too often, because we are looking to the thing as the end, not a means by which we might travel more easily to that which lies beyond the thing, becomes that which just makes us feel further and further away from the truth of who we are. When Mahatma Gandhi was asked, why don't you run for, you never said you wanted to be the president of India. He said, the greatest service I can be to my country is to reduce myself to zero. Now, to reduce ourselves to zero, to enter into the space of no thing, is to enter into the space of all that is. And so when we enter into that space of no thing, by definition, we are extending our perception, no longer identifying. It's one thing to say I live in the three-dimensional world, but the very fact that I live in this three-dimensional world doesn't mean that I have to identify my selfhood with it. And enlightenment, the Course in Miracles says, is a shift in self-identification from body identification to spirit identification. Now, the Course in Miracles says there's nothing that's bad about this realm. This realm of the material plane of things is holy or unholy, and that is determined by the purpose ascribed to it by the mind. And when you think holy, think whole. Your holy mind is your whole mind. To the extent to which I identify with the realm of things, I'm not in my holy mind. I'm not in my wholeness, because rather I am seeing just my body, which is one little piece of this extraordinary vast universe, and saying that is who I am. Of course I don't feel enough. Of course I don't feel connected. And therefore I cannot be comfortable in my skin. That's the counterintuitive significance. I cannot feel comfortable in my skin if I identify only with my skin. Your skin, your body, the Course in Miracles says, is like a suit of clothes. Your suit of clothes is important, and there will be a time when you will take it off because it will not be appropriate for you to wear it any longer. But you don't feel that you die when you take off your clothes. And therefore, we come to understand that the physical self, the death of the physical self, does not signify the end of the spirit. The Course in Miracles says your physical birth was not the beginning of your life, it was a continuation. And the end of your physical life or your death is not the end of your life, it is a continuation of your life. Now, in this space of no thing, in this space of there's nothing here, the ego goes, this is terrible. Like I remember Peggy Lee, when I was a kid, there was a singer named Peggy Lee, and she sang a song, Is This All There Is? Yes, this is all there is. Now, if you just go, this is all there is, then you get depressed. But you have to go through that moment of getting this is all there is in order to get to the moment beyond that, which is that which is that to live for, that which makes us happy, etc. So everything that the world tells us will make us happier, if we can only get this or get that. You can make your dream come true. You can manifest it. If you get this job, then you'll be happy. You get that relationship, then you'll be happy. If that other person would just only behave the way you keep telling them that you need them to behave, then you will be happy. If you will get that job or this. And so it's a constant life of struggle that we're taught to believe that we have to live in order to be happy. Because then, once you get it, you'll be happy. But the second noble truth of the Buddha is that things of this world can only bring you temporary happiness. And the Course in Miracles says nothing in this world has deep enough roots to sustain you. There is nothing in this world that goes deep enough to answer your essential fundamental yearning. So we're set up here. Go after it. You can make your dreams come true and then you'll be happy. And then we get those things which we think would make us happy. And then, as Buddha said, there's nothing in this world that can give you but temporary happiness. The fairy dust will rub off. To put it in religious terms, the idol will fall, because it was only an idol to think that that thing outside yourself was going to be the source of your happiness. And then the rest of the time we're in despair, right? Because even after we got the thing that we thought would make us happy, it didn't make us happy for that long. I had an interesting thing last week. Not that I'd been even thinking about this would make me happy, but it was interesting to note how my mind worked. I got a call last week that my book had reached number 5 on the New York Times list. Oh, well, thank you. I was very excited. Thank you very much. For about 10 minutes. And then where did my mind go? Why only 5? And what if I'm not on it next week? I mean, this could just be a spike. It could have just come up and then it's off. And yeah, you're still bestseller, but then you blah, blah, blah. And I saw that aspect of my mind is insatiable. That aspect of mind has no capacity to do anything else. And so what I have seen, not only from reading books, but from living my life, and we all do, because, the Course in Miracles is not about theory. It says belief is ultimately meaningless. Experience is everything. And the only reason we should believe any kind of spiritual philosophy is if we try it and it works. So what I have experienced in my life is that the key to happiness is to want nothing. The key to happiness is to want nothing. Then the ego mind says, oh, no, then you'll have nothing. And yet, from a Course in Miracles perspective, and this is what I want to talk to you about tonight, in that space of nothingness, what you have is yourself. And in that space of striving for something, what you lose is yourself. And the irony, of course, is that all the universe does is respond to the abundance or lack thereof of your selfhood. So if I'm coming from less and thinking that I need something in the world to make me more, which by definition I will think I need something in the world to make me more because I think I am of the world, then all that the universe will reflect back to me is the lack that I identify as myself. The Course in Miracles talks about the state of being. We think the ego thinks in terms of getting, the spirit thinks in terms of being. So if our concentration, our dedication is on being, knowing that there's nothing that you can get that adds to your being, and there's nothing that can happen in your life that can detract from your being, because your being is a constant. And that being that is a constant is in that realm beyond the material, because on the material plane, you're up sometimes, you're down sometimes. They like you, they don't like you. You have the money, you don't have the money. You have the job, you don't have the job. Those things change. But the way to have power and effectiveness within the realm of things that do change is to ground your sense of selfhood on that which does not. That's why in the New Testament, when Jesus says, you can build your house on rock or you can build your house on sand. If you build your house on sand, then the winds can come and the rains can come, and your house can be, it can be, just trashed. But if you build your house on rock, then the winds can come, the rains can come, and your house remains firm. Your house is your sense of self. Now, I want to speak to you. I want to read to you tonight from lesson 128 as well as lesson 129 in the workbook of A Course in Miracles. But before I do, remember, if the universe is going to reflect back to you your sense of self, if I think I don't have enough, you see, I'll be enough when I get this or I get that, then all the universe is going to reflect back is woman who is lacking, woman who is lacking, woman who is lacking. But if I realize that I am who God created me to be, my worth is established by my creation, which is no better and no worse than anyone else's, which is actually at one with everyone else's because we are one, then I realize there is nothing that can contribute that can make me more. Woman who has everything, woman who has everything, woman who has everything. She knows she has everything because she knows she is everything, and so what is the universe going to reflect back to me? The universe will reflect back to me on a material plane the abundance that I identify with on a spiritual plane. That abundance being everything that would support us in our own happiness. So that which would, there's actually a line in the pamphlet, which is there are two pamphlets that are part of the Course in Miracles material, and one of them says, the Holy Spirit knows your rent. Unless that's in the third volume, but it's somewhere. Okay, lesson 128 says, the world I see holds nothing that I want. Now that's very different than what we're taught in this world. You got to figure out what you want, what would make you happy, and this is saying, the world I see holds nothing that I want. And lesson 129 says, beyond this world, there is a world I want. The world I see holds nothing that I want. I had an interesting thing that happened in my life that relates to some of this, and as you read this, as you hear this, you'll come sort of to understand this. When I could walk down Madison Avenue or Fifth Avenue at a certain place and look in store windows, and I knew there was absolutely no chance that I could buy any of those things, I was very happy and had no stress because there simply wasn't a question. There wasn't a question, so there was no stress, and I could just enjoy it. The stress came when I knew, well, I could buy one. But I don't know, do I buy this one? And if I buy this one, maybe it's not as good as that one, and then I would have spent the money, and I don't know. And I noticed how much happier I was when I couldn't afford any of it. So you should either be able to afford to buy the stores or none of it. I saw that that's when the stress came in. It was when there was, well, I could buy one. And that's how you start to see the world. That this world is like a beautiful shop window. And it's here to entertain you. It will not fix you. And even if you can attain some of it, if you attain it from that place, you are attaining it from a place of despair. Too many times we are in despair. I'm desperate to get that job. I'm desperate to have that relationship work. I'm desperate to be able to get that dress, or I'm desperate to be able to have that money. But everything we do and everything we're about is infused with the consciousness with which we go about seeking to attain it. So if I'm trying to get it out of desperation, then either I will actually repel it, it will go further away, or you will have the unhappiness of knowing that even once you get it, it will not fill you in the way that you have been led to believe that it would fill you. Does that make sense? Okay, lesson 128. The world I see holds nothing that I want. The world you see holds nothing that you need to offer you, nothing that you can use in any way, nor anything at all that serves to give you joy. Now, you read that and you go, either I don't believe it or it's really depressing, so I don't want to believe it. Believe this thought, And you are saved from years of misery, from countless disappointments, and from hopes that turn to bitter ashes of despair. No one but must accept this thought is true if he would leave the world behind and soar beyond its petty scope and little ways. You know, in the book of Exodus, God says, I think it's Joshua, or maybe to Moses, but I think it was Joshua, I'm not sure which, I will, first of all, there are two parts of this that are so powerful. He says, I will deliver you to myself. That's the highest prize. He says, I will deliver you on eagle's wings. And there's a part in the Course in Miracles where it says, why do you struggle? Do you work so hard for the wings of a sparrow when the wings of an eagle have already been given you? Each thing you value here is but a chain that binds you to the world, and it will serve no other end but this. For everything must serve the purpose you have given it until you see a different purpose there. The only purpose worthy of your mind this world contains is that you pass it by, without delaying to perceive some hope where there is none. Be you deceived no more. The world you see holds nothing that you want. Escape today the chains you place upon your mind when you perceive salvation here. For what you value, you make part of you as you perceive yourself. All things you seek to make your value greater in your sight limit you further, hide your worth from you, and add another bar across the door that leads to true awareness of yourself. Now you see what that means, right? Because of what we were saying before. If I think that's what I need, I'm identifying with that realm, and it actually limits my sense of how fantastic I am because I think I need that thing to be fantastic. Let nothing that relates to body thoughts delay your progress to salvation. Now let's just take a moment because that term has been used twice. This is one of those areas where the Course in Miracles uses these really traditional Christian terms, but in ways that are so non-traditional, they are psychotherapeutic in a way. As the Course in Miracles says, psychotherapy and religion at their peak are the same thing. The thing to be saved from, there's only one thing to be saved from, our own insanity. The world is dominated by a thought system that is based on fear. Fear is our insanity, not our sanity. So salvation is the process of dismantling the ego fear-based mind and accepting the whole mind, the holy mind, the mind of love. Nothing is here to cherish. Let nothing that delays to body thoughts delay your progress to salvation, nor permit temptation to believe the world holds anything you want to hold you back. Nothing is here to cherish. Once again, it's like a wonderful, like when you look at the windows and it's beautiful, but you don't go into, I have to buy it, right? Nothing here is worth one instant of delay and pain, one moment of uncertainty and doubt. The worthless offer nothing. Certainty of worth cannot be found in worthlessness. Today we practice letting go all thought of values we have given to the world. We leave it free of purposes we gave its aspects and its phases and its dreams, which is always some aspect of I have to have that. Not I can just enjoy watching it, I can enjoy looking at it, I can enjoy being it. He said, I have to have that, right? We hold it purposeless within our minds and loosen it from all we wish it were. Thus do we lift the chains that bar the door to freedom from the world and go beyond all little values and diminished goals. So the ego mind says, I want more of the world. I want to own it, I want to procure it, I want to achieve it, I want to have it. And the way of salvation, the dismantling of that mindset, is you want to be free of it. You want to be free of it, and then, interestingly enough, only then can you enjoy it. Because as long as you feel you need it and you're struggling to attain it, even if you get it, it won't be what you thought it was, because it was never meant to be that. It was never meant to be that which completes you. It was always just meant to be that which delights you. Pause and be still a little while, which means remember to meditate, and see how far you rise above the world when you release your mind from chains and let it seek the level where it finds itself at home. Now that's why everybody's so depressed and stressed, because the mind isn't at the level which is at home. I'm not at home in struggle. I'm not at home in grasping. And yet we're taught that the only way we can get home is if we get those things we have to struggle and grasp for. Are you with me? It will be grateful. It says, let it seek the level where it finds itself at home. It will be grateful to be free a while. It knows where it belongs, but free its wings. Once again, the eagle's wings. But free its wings, and it will fly in sureness and in joy to join its holy purpose. Let it rest in its Creator, there to be restored to sanity, to freedom, and to love. Give it 10 minutes rest, 3 times today. And when your eyes are opened afterwards, you will not value anything you see as much as when you looked at it before. Now, I just want to stop for a moment. For those of us who do the workbook of the Course in Miracles, this is how the Course works. It's developing muscles. It's not saying you're going to do this and then you're going to be an enlightened master. It's saying you're going to do this, and that day in which you did this, every time you do it, it's going to be a little different. Does that make sense? Your whole perspective on the world will shift by just a little every time you let your mind escape its chains. The world is not where it belongs, and you belong where it would be, and where it goes to rest when you release it from the world. Your guide is sure. Open your mind to him, be still, and rest. You know, it's like when we were little babies, unless you were raised in a heinous environment, and some babies actually, this is what I'm about to say is not true, unfortunately, of every child. But for the vast majority of us, when you were a baby, when you were even a toddler, you didn't think you had to worry about things because mommy and daddy were going to do it. Or mommy or daddy or somebody. You knew that the grown-ups were going to take care of that. And you dwelled in trust. Well, that's the right relationship. That's why healthy families are important. Because then you easily transition into God the Father, or God the Mother, of knowing that you don't have to struggle and grasp, and that to the extent to which we struggle and grasp, things are repelled rather than attracted. Because it's the difference between dynamic power and magnetic power. A grasping, struggle, and working so hard to make it happen actually pushes it away because I'm not in the fullness of my true self. But when I'm in the fullness of my true self, I am a magnet for everything that would contribute to my highest functioning, because I have chosen to be in my highest functioning, and I'm not in my highest functioning if I'm in grasp and struggle mentality. Does that make sense? Protect your mind throughout the day as well. And when you think you see some value in an aspect or an image of the world, refuse to lay this chain upon your mind. And that's where I went with that whole thing with the bestseller list. I just laughed at myself because I saw where my mind went. But refuse to lay this chain upon your mind, but tell yourself with quiet certainty, this will not tempt me to delay myself. The world I see holds nothing that I want. Now, I'm going to read you a little bit of the beginning of the next one. Because the Course in Miracles says in various places, if all we did was tell you that this world is not what you think it is, this would be very depressing to you. And that is actually a phase that we go through. It is. It's a phase we go through when you're first doing the Course. It's like, well, then what is there to even... I remember once in a relationship workshop that I did, I remember a woman saying, Marianne, the way you talk about men, it's like, we don't need them, so why even have them? And I said, to enjoy them. And that is the difference. Now, if a man feels for me, I need him, is he Is that going to be hot for very long? But if, and men tell me, how about if I enjoy you? Right? Okay. So it's a phase we go through. It's a, like, this, there's a part in the Course in Miracles where it says, the reason you don't want to accept this course is because if this course is true, everything you've ever been taught is untrue. And that's true. And it is a phase. So I just want to read, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read you the beginning of this. That lesson 129, which comes right after that, is, beyond this world, there is a world I want. This is the thought that follows from the one we practiced yesterday. You cannot stop with the idea the world is worthless, for unless you see that there is something else to hope for, you will only be depressed. And that's why so many people are depressed. They're either depressed because they're trying for something that's not going to make them happy, even if they get it, or they've decided there's nothing here they want, so they got half the truth, and half the truth is just as depressing as none of the truth, right? Our emphasis is not on giving up the world, but on exchanging it for what is far more satisfying, filled with joy, and capable of offering you peace. Think you this world can offer that to you? It might be worth a little time to think once more about the value of this world. Perhaps you will concede there's no loss in letting go all thought of value here. The world you see is merciless indeed, unstable, cruel, unconcerned with you, quick to avenge, and pitiless with hate. It gives but to rescind, and takes away all things that you've cherished for a while. No lasting love is found here, for none is here. This is the world of time, where all things end. Is it a loss to find instead a world where losing is impossible, where love endures forever, hate cannot exist, and vengeance has no meaning? Is it loss to find all things you really want, and to know that they have no ending, and they will remain exactly as you want them throughout time? Yet even they will be exchanged at last for what we cannot speak of, for you go from there to where words fail entirely, into a silence where the language is unspoken and yet surely understood. Communication, unambiguous and plain as day, remains unlimited for all eternity. And God himself speaks to his Son as his Son speaks to him. Their language has no words, for what they say cannot be symbolized. Their knowledge is direct and wholly shared and wholly one. How far away from this are you who stay bound to this world? And yet how near are you when you exchange it for the world you want? Now is the last step certain. Now you stand an instant space away from timelessness. Here can you but look forward, never back, to see again the world you do not want. Here is the world that comes to take its place. As you unbind your mind from little things, the world sets forth to keep you prisoner. Now notice that line. As you unbind your mind from little things, the world sets forth to keep you prisoner. Value them not, and they will disappear. Esteem them, and they will seem real to you. Obviously, I said I wasn't reading on, but now I want to. Such is the choice. What loss can be for you in choosing not to value nothingness. This world holds nothing that you really want, but what you choose instead, you want indeed. Let it be given you today. It awaits, but you're choosing it, to take the place of all things you seek but do not want. Now, Practice your willingness to make this change 10 minutes in the morning and at night, and once more in between. Begin with this. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. I choose to see that world instead of this, for here is nothing that I really want. Then close your eyes upon the world you see, and in the silent darkness, watch the lights that are not of this world light one by one, until where one begins, another ends, loses all meaning as they blend in one. Today, the lights of heaven bend to you, to shine upon your eyelids as you rest beyond the world of darkness. Here is light your eyes cannot behold, and yet your mind can see it plainly and can understand. A day of grace is given you today, and we give thanks. This day we realize that what you feared to lose was only loss. Now do we understand there is no loss, for we have seen its opposite at last, and we are grateful that the choice is made. Remember your decision hourly, and take a moment to confirm your choice by laying by whatever thoughts you have and dwelling briefly only upon this. The world I see holds nothing that I want. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. Now, if you say, all right, this world, the world I see holds nothing that I want. Some people, and people have historically, taken that to mean that the world is bad. The Course in Miracles does not tell us that the material plane is bad. It tells us that the material plane is nothing. It is completely neutral. As I said before, it is holy or unholy, determined by its purpose. So, the issue is, let's say you're an actor. It's the difference between, I have to have an Oscar to have value, that's the ego, or I want to be one of the great actors of all time, because great film and great acting are high art forms, and high art forms help revolutionize the consciousness of the planet, and great movies help that, and that's the zone I want to be in, which by definition lifts you into the zone of great acting, which means you're more likely to get your Oscar. Right? So if you are asking that whatever you do, that you be, if we've been talking recently about when God told the Israelites, I will make of you a nation of priests, that we all see ourselves, no more and no less. The Course in Miracles says, all of the children of God are special, none of the children of God are special. The Course in Miracles says that the people on this planet who have achieved the most have achieved a fraction of what each and every one of us are capable of. So the potential, the Course in Miracles says, each of us has infinite potential. Not only that, each of us has a particular part assigned. So each and every one of us, it's like the cells of the body, assigned to the pancreas, assigned to the liver, assigned to the heart, as we were talking about earlier, assigned to the arts, assigned to the sciences, assigned to business, assigned to politics, whatever, right? As we dwell within the no thing, as I said, happiness comes from wanting nothing. Because wanting, as soon as I'm into want, I want that. I want that. And you can feel it in your gut. I want that. That's not pure desire. That's appetite. False appetite and pure desire are different. And that, go back to that man-woman thing. Or man-man or woman-woman, it's the same thing. False appetite for you doesn't, after a while, it doesn't, false appetite for me makes me feel like this is about your needs, it's not about me. Pure desire, I'm coming right after work, right? Pure desire is where you are allowing the intentionality of the universe to work through you. And when the intentionality of the universe is working through you, it's like the intentionality within the body, where our natural intelligence already knows where every cell is supposed to be in order to collaborate with every other cell to serve the healthy functioning of the whole. And your individual glorification will be there. You will, if you're seeking applause for yourself, you're probably not going to get it. Or if you get it, then you won't get it, or whatever. You know, and it's be one of those unstable things. But if you are seeking, you know, in the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu talks about how the leader does not think of himself or herself as a leader. The leader, and this is so true in terms of contemporary leadership model, it's not a top-down thing, it's someone who holds the space for the brilliance of others. So Lao Tzu says, the leader is someone who thinks of himself or herself as a follower. You just be about following. There's a light. It's that light, the Star Bethlehem. It's like there's a light out there, and that light out there is a transformed planet, right? That light out there is a light where we've moved beyond war, we've moved beyond psychosis, we've moved beyond ISIL, we've moved beyond poverty, we've moved beyond unnecessary human suffering. We've moved beyond environmental degradation, we've moved beyond. We got a revolution here. We got it's like when John F. Kennedy said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. If we do not have a peaceful, positive revolution, the whole situation's going to explode. And that's not just theory. I mean, that's talk to any environmentalist, or there are just so many stress points on the planet. The way we're doing it now is unsustainable. But there is no order of difficulty in miracles, and the Course in Miracles says God has a plan the moment the problem occurs. But as my friend once says to me, a minister friend I know says, God cannot do for us what he cannot do through us. So the issue isn't when is God going to come and save us. The issue is when are enough of us going to say, use me. And if I'm saying use me after I've already struggled, a lot of times we say, after I've gotten my career together, I'm going to really just give my life to God and ask him to use me for all those wonderful things. After I've made this money, I'm going to be so generous. I love that one, on after I've made money. After I've made money, I'm going to be generous with my money. My mother used to call me the only poor philanthropist she had ever met. Because she used to come to my house. She came to my house once and she said, what are you doing? Because I was sitting on my bed and I had all these requests from all these charities on my bed. And I remember Danny Thomas used to ask for $16 a month for to fight childhood leukemia. And I had to decide, well, if I give $16 there, and I was so intentional, I was so, where could I give? And she said, Marianne, how much can you give a month? It didn't matter. And I remember feeling like childhood leukemia were on it, because I was giving my $16 a month. Right? You set the tone. Don't wait after you've done all your stuff. You be a big player now. Be a big player with who you are, because nothing that you are going to achieve on this planet is going to make you a bigger player. You are not a big player on the planet determined by what you've achieved. You're a big player because you are a child of God. There is no bigger player than that you are a child of God. And if you know that about yourself, then the universe will accrue to you. More will be given to you. A bigger piece of the garden will be given to you because you're tending the piece of the garden that you have. But too many people want a bigger garden, but they're not tending to the one they have. Or I know so many people, they want the spotlight or they want a microphone, but there's no real deep thought about what would I do if I had the microphone. What would I do? What song would I sing if the spotlight was on me? And yet, if you identify not with that, just go above that, fly above that turbulence. Those are turbulent airstreams. There's only turbulent air there. And for every day that you make it, we're always in the struggle. It's never enough, Do I want that? Do I not want that? Will I get that? And we think of all. I was thinking one day about how almost everything I had sought to attain in my life came out of desperation. If I was really honest with myself, it was a desperation behind the desire to get that, or to get him, or to get that. Or there's a desperation. We live from this space of desperation. And if you give it up, then all you have is happy. Because you're not even looking for it. You're just kind of back to when you're kind of looking and you can enjoy looking in the window. And then it comes. What comes? Whatever would vibrationally would be there for you at the level you need to perform your function. That's the only purpose to have money. The purpose of having money is so that you don't have to think about money. That's the purpose of money. So that you don't even have to think about that, and that's how much the universe wants you to have. And if we have too much of something, then it's kind of a spiritual constipation. Then you have it, and it begins to define you. Whereas the things of the world can be something that's just the means to the end. That's why you want things. that things become the means to the end. So yeah, it's nice if a book is a bestseller because then more people know about it, so more people who would be served by it are more likely to find out about it. But if your mind takes it and does something else with it, then it will not bring you joy and it will not bring others joy. And so, at first, like I said, to dwell in the no thing is kind of like, really? Really? But when you allow yourself to get this, this is just, I mean, it's all nice, but it's not permanent. You're permanent. None of this stuff is. It's a three-dimensional reality, and the Course in Miracles says the body is a beautiful lesson in communion until communion is. I mean, look at nature. It's gorgeous. But the Course in Miracles talks about the highest level of thinking of which the ego is capable. We can dwell in this world. I mean, the very fact that we're having this talk here tonight, this is ego-based in that it is based on our being, you know, we're communicating through physical bodies and so forth. But we could also be sitting here having a meeting about hate, and instead we're having a meeting about love. So it's ego, but it's highest level of thinking of which the ego is capable. So we live in this world, but we seek to take the thinking within it to a higher frequency that whatever we're doing is used for holy purposes. And then, you know that picture, Michelangelo's picture of the finger of God and the finger of man at the, what's the chapel in, pardon? Sistine Chapel at the Vatican. The Course in Miracles does say, you take your thinking, you cannot take your thinking beyond the thinking of this world. But you can go high enough that at a certain point, God himself will reach his hand and pull you all the way up. And so as we go into our quiet space today, I want you to, this is where we go, you know, first we talk about the theory, we talk about the philosophy, and then it's time for your own life. You know, the Course in Miracles says each and every one of us has a highly individualized curriculum. And also, you know, Adam has been so wonderful. Adam Isidore, he's out of town, but as the universe would have it, the marvelous Richard Learmont is here. And Richard is here from Los Angeles, and he's the one who's always done this with me in LA. And then Adam wrote and said, "Could I be your Richard?" And now Adam's gone, so God sent you here. It's perfect. Come on up, Richard, and everybody in New York, please welcome Richard Learmont. And Daniela, hi, it's so great. So cool. Let's start already. So, there's a lot that we hold. Think about all the heaviness in your life and the burden in your life because you're trying to make this happen or trying to make that happen. Now, somebody said to me the other day, he said, but if what you're saying is true, you know, what about ambition? You know, what about, you know, positive ambition? Well, does the embryo have to be ambitious to become a baby? Does the acorn have to be ambitious to become an oak tree? You know, when I moved to New York a couple of months ago, there were these trees outside my window in my apartment. And there wasn't much green on them yet. Just a few green leaves were starting to be present. And then it was so amazing because I watched every day. It was so amazing to watch that one, there's more green, there are more leaves, and then that one's starting to get its leaves. And you look at nature, and there's no sense that when spring comes and the buds I remember when I lived in Michigan, and you know, it's so amazing the four seasons that you see in the Midwest and New England, places like that. And that it was so like wintry, and then all of a sudden in a space of 2 weeks, you would just see the blossoms begin to come out. It's so amazing. But there's no sense of struggle. It's just what happens. It's natural intelligence. And that will work through you. You will achieve more. But you will achieve through what A Course in Miracles calls effortless accomplishment. And we will achieve through effortless accomplishment because you come to realize that the place of struggle actually undercuts your creativity. It doesn't support your creativity. It undercuts your creativity because it undercuts your ability to be fully present in a situation, fully available to a situation, fully available to the relationship vectors that could happen. You're on the make. That's what's wrong with too many people in America. Everybody's on the make rather than just on the availability. And we're so afraid that that's just nothing will happen. That's when everything happens. Because then you're a vessel that can be used You know, we talk about all that all the time. I heard a woman at a meeting the other day, and she was talking about how I need to trust myself more. I need to just have faith in myself. I need to have faith in myself. And the more she talked about how she needed to have faith in herself, the more I was thinking, no, that's your problem, that you think you need to have faith in yourself. Our faith is faith in that there's an expression, it's not in the Course in Miracles, but you hear people say it, I have power in you, but not of you. That's what you have faith in. It's not me. It's not faith in me, faith in my, I can do this. If you have this, I can do it, you know, everybody, you see these seminars and stuff, you can do it. That's like white sugar, you know, and it'll give you adrenaline. But if I go out there, I can do this, I can do this, you're really going to be living with this background fear that maybe you can't, and maybe other people will figure out that you can't. But if you figure, well, I'm here, so I guess I'm the one, and just open the faucet and the water will come through if this is my assignment. And you're just fully available. I remember many years ago, I heard Werner Erhard talking on a video clip. And he had for a while, and for those of you who don't know, he was the founder of EST, and I think this whole explosion of transformational wisdom would not have occurred without that man. He's vastly under-recognized now because there's generations that don't know who he was, but I'm telling you who he was. So, Werner Erhard was talking about how he had learned to be a race car driver. And he was at some conference, some convention where all these great race car drivers were. And he was so excited to be listening to these guys who were like major domo race car drivers, because he wondered what it was like to drive at that speed. And he said when he was listening to them, he said, what I realized listening to them is that to them, when they're in those high speeds, it's like just hanging out in their living room. And I thought that was so profound. Their experience was not, this is high speed. That level was just their natural state. And this came home to me once when I was pregnant with my daughter. Because any woman here who's ever carried a child knows you're just in awe. You can feel life is being created inside you, and it's like a human being is developing in there. And I remember one day when I was just asking, what can I best do to support the process? And the answer was just sit down, rest, put your feet up, and have a cup of chamomile tea. And I thought, that's such a metaphor for life. I am best used for the most effective power in the world if I'm at rest within myself. The struggle mode doesn't make it happen. This adrenaline mode doesn't make it happen. This full speediness doesn't make it happen. And that's why, you know, I've heard some very powerful people talk about how they don't multitask. You gotta slow down to really, and I see this in my own life. If I'm moving too fast, I either don't get things done or I don't get them done effectively and I make mistakes. Finding that place of rest within ourselves, going into the no thing, is what then allows life to flow through us. So, now, as the Course in Miracles says, this is a very practical course. Practice is where the rubber meets the road. And your greatest power to change your life, the Course in Miracles says, is to change your mind about your life. So as we now close our eyes, become comfortable, seek the light which is within. First, in closing our outer eye, we open to the light within. And we seek that golden place within our minds, the sacred temple, the love of God. And here we rest. We lay down our burdens. We forget needing to hold up the universe. We forget all the balls we're juggling in the air. All the things we're trying to make happen. All the things we're trying to control. All those places where we've got our engine revved up and we're going to push this through. And we simply let it go. instead we pray that all of those situations, all of those experiences, all of the relationships that they represent, we place them in divine hands and ask that they unfold in divine right order. We know that our control is no control at all. And rather we ask that the same power that keep planets revolving around the sun, the same planet that turns embryos into babies, the same power that does that, the same power that turns an acorn into an oak tree, may that power now infuse all aspects and circumstances of our lives. And we rest. We pray that the angels of God minister unto us, repair the places in our minds, repair the places in our bodies, the adrenals, all the aspects of the body that takes the stress. So much we're trying to do, so much we're trying to drive, and we let it go. And yes, we hear the ego mind shrieking, you can't do this, it'll all fall apart. You have responsibilities, you have to do this. We hear it, but it does not scare us like it used to do. For we know that that voice simply talks that way. But it is not the voice for God. Rather, we actually go through in our minds all those situations where we have struggled trying to make it happen, thinking we're worthless unless it does, and we let go, asking only that God's will be done. God is love and will is thought. May love enter here. May love make us fully available to each other and to life. May love dissolve our harsh and wicked places. May love transform all things within us and around us. And may love use everything we do and everything we are for its purposes. Think of your career and say, love, use me. Think of your talents and say, love, use me. Think of your body and say, love, use me. Think of your marriage, your romances, your partnerships, and say, love, use me. Think of your money and say, love, use me. Think of your body, your things of this world, and your inner self, and pray, love, use me. And thus you rest in the arms of God. And the power which creates flowers, the power which creates mountains, the power which which created the moon and the sun and the stars, the power that created all things, shall create through you. For nothing you have ever done, nothing anyone has ever done can match God's plans for what He will do through you. His plan works and yours doesn't. Allow the waters of His love and His power and His glory and His peace and His forgiveness and His gentleness and His approval and His generosity and His compassion and His mercy flow through you. Nothing else matters. And as we give up our attack thoughts, give up our anger, give up our defensiveness, give up our judgments, give up our control, give up our blame, give up our cynicism, give up our anger. All that is holy shall move through us, and everything that could make us happy will appear in the twinkling of an eye. We shall be lifted to the highest level, the highest manifestation of our divine self, and happiness and peace and joy unending will be with us all our days. Hallelujah. Praise God. Together we say, Amen. Thank you. Richard Luna. Thank you. Okay. A few announcements. You know we're here on Wednesday nights. As my mother would say, God willing. Also on July 12th, Tuesday night, July 12th, I will be giving a talk sponsored by the Open Center at the Marble Collegiate Church. Will be specifically a talk about my new book, Tears to Triumph. So I hope that those of you in New York will join me on Tuesday night, July 12th at the Marble Collegiate Church, and help me tell your friends about that. Also, those of you in the Denver area, I will be at the Mile High Church in Denver on Friday, July 15th. I will be back at the Saban in Los Angeles on July 18th. All of that information, of course, is at marianne.com. Now, I want to talk about something. I think that the young woman who brought it up, I think I see you, but you'll tell me if I'm wrong. A woman said something last week about men and harassing women on the street. Was that you, ma'am? Okay. Was that not you? It was you. Thank you for coming back. So I got an email this week from someone who felt that I had given short shrift to that issue and that I had come across like I was glib about it. And I certainly don't mean to. And what this woman said in her email was that she lives in a big city. It wasn't New York, but where she said that there are women, not just herself, who actually feel men do follow them, and if they're not responsive, the men get very angry, and the women are actually afraid for their safety. So if I in any way seemed like I was minimizing that if in fact it was problematical, then I apologize for that. And also, we were talking about that in the body of the lecture. And if it had been during the second half, I know I would have said. So I want to give a chance for any women who want to speak to that, or if you want to speak more to that, because I didn't want to leave that incomplete when I saw that email from someone.
I thought about it.
Yes, does somebody have a microphone for this lady here? If you want to say something to that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I thought about what I was actually maybe not articulating was the role of the ego in that situation was what I was asking.
The role of the what?
The ego in that situation.
Okay.
And not responding from how to respond from love in terms of, and still remaining, the difference between the ego and boundaries, and when how to know if your boundaries are from the ego or your boundary and judgment, or if it's from like a loving protection from yourself. But I did take your advice when you said to speak to God about it, and I did. And it's funny because I thought, and it was funny that you said they're all children of God later, and I had just gotten a tattoo that said child of God, and so I kept that with me. And it's funny because it's changed my perspective as I walk down the street, and I feel much less controlled by those things.
Okay.
And so I do, and it's crazy that you're bringing it up again, because I thought about it all week, and I felt ashamed of myself for asking that question, and I was trying to come to terms with it, but I prayed on it, and I feel much better about it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you. And I also want to thank the woman who wrote it. You know, it's interesting because I do get quite a lot of mail, and I really appreciate the people who write in a way that does not make me feel judged or attacked, but just sharing something I might not have seen. There was something else that came the other day, so I always want to make it right if I was, where is this lady right now? Yeah, I would certainly want to make it right, so thank you. And if anybody else wants to say, did you want to say something about that, ma'am? Okay.
Hi, Marianne. I had actually written to you on Facebook about this a few months ago.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember.
It's funny because when she spoke, I'd assumed she was you.
Wow.
Well, I just assumed because, you'd written me about that, so, because I do remember that.
I did write to you about that, and you gave me such a beautiful response. Because I had said to you, I'd been praying for them and it wasn't really working, and I still felt very violated in the way that it was happening. And I had been followed so many times, and it just felt unsafe. And then I also felt like they were intruding on my sexuality without my permission. And you suggested that I say a certain type of prayer in the morning, which I have been almost every day since then, and it's really working. And the prayer that I've been saying is, Holy Spirit, please wrap a cloak of invisibility around me as I go out in the world today. Guide and protect me. And then also, Mother Mary, please protect me. And to neutralize my sexuality, except in situations that would serve. And I just want to tell you, as a follow-up, every time I've done that, which is almost every day since then, it's reduced from 3 times a day to maybe once a week.
Exactly.
And it doesn't feel threatening anymore, so thank you.
And I had mentioned last week also about the cloak of the invisibility cloak that's in Harry Potter. That's very powerful. Women can wear an invisibility cloak. If you're married, or married men or women, you wear an invisibility cloak. We are too self-indulgent with our chakras. There are certain chakras that your love comes from. And keep those high chakras, except for people in situations where it's responsible to keep those low chakras. Open them up in the appropriate time. But if you go out into the day without prayer, it's like our energy is spewing out from too many places. And if you're all love, but you're not responsible for that, and that's what prayer does. Prayer aligns you so that you are not only a more loving person, you're loving from the right chakras. Right? So that's great. So we're cool? So you're cool, and you're cool, and we're all cool with that? Okay. Yes, sir. But also, I want to say something to the men here. Just when I hear when women write to me or say things in situations like that, and sometimes I hear women say, and then a man approached me and I didn't feel safe with that, I would certainly hope that any man, and I assume it, but I just think it would be said that any man who sees anything like that would actually step in and say, hey, do your man thing. Okay, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think, after I ask this question and get your answer, I'm going to have to take a plane to China. So
you're going to take a plane to China? I thought you said I'm going to ask you to take a trip.
And disappear. Only because this kind of fits in with the conversation. I'm not one of those guys on the street who calls after women, and I'm not one of those guys who, if a woman were to reject anything like that, I would feel bad about that. But I am one of those guys who do look at women on the street. And, to a certain extent, I thought, that was just, some kind of dalliance on my part. And it's only through this discussion that I didn't realize that there could be women who feel victimized by that. So to that extent, there have been times when I felt, that I have no control over that I'm powerless over that. And it's something that, takes up valuable time and focus in my life. So the question now would be, what can I do? Okay,
wait a minute. A beautiful woman is one of the most exquisite creatures on the planet. Women appreciate a man when he looks at her in a way that is not